I never imagined that my own home would one day feel like a prison. For years, I had worked with one purpose: to give my son, Daniel, a life I never had. I built a family business from the ground up, starting with nothing but a tiny repair shop in town. People laughed at me then, but I kept going. Brick by brick, year after year, I created something solid. By the time Daniel graduated college, I had more than just a business. I had a small empire, a hardware supply chain, 3 stores across the state, a comfortable home, and the respect of every man in our community. My dream was simple. Daniel would step in, learn from me, and one day carry the legacy forward. But I was wrong. I didn't know that the legacy I built with sweat and blood would become the very weapon used against me. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon so all my stories can reach you, and we may become lifetime friends. Daniel met Emily at a friend's wedding. I still remember the first time she walked into our home, tall, elegant, carrying herself like she already belonged. She was charming at first, soft-spoken, well-dressed, and always smiling. She called me Dad with a sweetness that melted my heart. I thought, my son has chosen well. But the sweetness was sugar on poison. It started with small things. Dad, Emily thinks maybe you should take more rest. Daniel said one night after dinner, you've worked enough in your life. Maybe I can handle things now. I smiled then, proud that my son wanted to take responsibility. That's good, son. You should learn. But remember, business is a river. If you don't watch the current, it can drown you. Daniel nodded, but I saw Emily's eyes flicker. A faint smirk, gone as quickly as it appeared. Weeks passed, and her voice began to echo in every decision. Dad, the accounts are too old-fashioned. Emily says we should modernize everything. Dad, Emily thinks you're being too strict with the staff. Dad, Emily says... Always Emily says. At first, I didn't mind. I thought it was natural, a young wife influencing her husband. But slowly, I realized my own words were carrying less and less weight in my son's mind. Where once he would ask me for advice, now he only repeated hers. One morning, I walked into the office and stopped cold. My nameplate, the same brass plate that had sat on my desk for 25 years, was gone. In its place, Daniel and Emily, directors. My throat went dry. My hands trembled as I touched the new plate. When Daniel walked in, I asked quietly, "Where's my name?" He chuckled nervously. "Dad, you're still the founder. Everyone knows that. We just thought it looks better this way. More modern. Couples running businesses together. It's a trend." We. Every word now had her fingerprints on it. At home, Emily began treating me not like a father-in-law, but like an unwanted guest. "Don't wear that shirt, Dad. It looks outdated. Why are you still eating with so much salt? It's unhealthy. You're sitting in Daniel's spot. Can you move over?" Each sentence was dipped in sugar, but carried poison. One evening, I was reading in the living room when I heard her voice in the kitchen. "Daniel, your father doesn't belong in the office anymore. He's slowing you down. If you don't take control, everything will crumble. Don't you want a future for us? For our children?" And Daniel's reply broke me more than the words themselves. "You're right, Emily. I'll talk to the lawyer next week." I froze. My book slipped from my hand. My own son, the boy I taught to ride a bike, whose bruises I kissed, whose tuition I paid, was now planning with his wife to erase me. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling fan spinning above me, the sound like a hammer pounding in my head. I remembered every sacrifice, the nights I skipped dinner, so Daniel could have milk, the winters I wore the same old coat, so he could have new shoes, the friends I lost because I spent my life working for him. And now, I was just an obstacle. A few weeks later, I suffered a mild stroke. The doctor said stress, high blood pressure. I spent 3 nights in the hospital. And in those 3 nights, my son visited me only once. Emily, she didn't come at all. Instead, it was George, my old employee, now more like a friend, who sat by my bed. He adjusted my pillow, reminded me to take medicine, and said softly, "Boss, don't let them break you. You are stronger than this." When I returned home, nothing had changed. Daniel barely spoke to me. Emily looked at me as though I were an inconvenience. One Sunday morning, as I sat alone at the dining table with my coffee, I watched them laughing in the garden. Emily held Daniel's arm as if she had conquered the world. Daniel looked at her with the blind devotion of a man who couldn't see the knife she carried behind her smile. I whispered to myself, how did I become a stranger in my own family? The betrayal wasn't sudden. It wasn't a knife plunged in my back. It was poison, drop by drop, turning my own son against me. And yet, I didn't know then that the poison could be turned into a weapon, because sometimes the weeks after my stroke should have been a time of healing. Instead, they became a time of humiliation. I returned to the office one Monday morning, moving slower than before, but still determined. The staff who had once stood at attention, when I entered, now looked past me. Their eyes darted nervously, as though waiting for someone else to arrive. That someone else was Emily. She walked in wearing a crisp blazer, her heels clicking on the tiles like gunshots. She didn't greet me. Instead, she went straight to my office, no, her office now, and slammed the door behind her. I stood frozen, holding my worn leather briefcase. That briefcase had been my companion for 30 years, carrying contracts, receipts, and dreams. Now it felt like dead weight. Later that day, I overheard 2 employees whispering. Emily said the old man shouldn't be interfering anymore. Yeah, Daniel doesn't say anything. He just follows her lead. I clenched my fist but said nothing. My silence was my dignity, though inside my heart was bleeding. At home, things worsened. Emily changed the locks on several cabinets, including the one where I kept important documents. She told Daniel it was for security. I watched helplessly as the keys I once carried proudly were taken from my pocket. One night, during dinner, Emily looked at me and smiled. "Dad, you've done so much already. Don't you think it's time you retired completely? Enjoy life. Let us handle the heavy stuff." I placed my fork down slowly. Retired? Emily, this business is my blood, my soul. You can't just push me out. Daniel shifted uncomfortably. "Dad, maybe Emily is right. You need to rest." The doctor said. I cut him off. The doctor said to reduce stress. He didn't say to throw away my life's work. Emily's smile never faded, but her eyes, sharp cold, told me I had already lost. The breaking point came 2 months later. I received a letter from the lawyer. My ownership in the company, my company, had been reduced. Daniel and Emily now held controlling shares. My signature had been forged. I stormed into their room that night, letter in hand. "Daniel, what is this? Did you do this?" Daniel stammered. "Dad, calm down." "Don't tell me to calm down. Did you sign this? Did you take my company away from me?" Emily stepped in front of him, her voice like ice. "Yes, we did, because you don't know how to handle things anymore. You're old. You're weak. You should be grateful we're even keeping you in the house." Her words struck me harder than any slap. My son lowered his head. He didn't defend me. He didn't defend a man who gave him everything. I felt my chest tighten. My breath grew shallow. For the second time, I collapsed. When I woke up in the hospital again, there was no Daniel, no Emily. Only George, my loyal employee, was was there, holding my hand. Tears blurred my vision. Why, George? Why would my own son do this to me? George leaned close. Because greed blinds people, boss. But don't give up. You still have one thing they don't. I whispered, "What's that?" He smiled faintly. "Your mind and your will." That night I decided, if my son and his wife wanted to erase me, I would write myself back into history with ink they could never wash away. They thought I was finished, but they didn't know that while they were busy celebrating their little victory, I was quietly planning something far greater. Revenge doesn't come with shouting. It comes with silence. And silence was my greatest weapon. While Daniel and Emily controlled the business, I met with my lawyer privately. I revised my will. Every asset, every property, every bank account. Nothing would go to Daniel or Emily. Instead, I left everything to George's children, who had always treated me like a father. They visited me, called me, remembered my birthday. They respected me more than my own blood. But that wasn't enough. No, I wanted Emily to feel the sting of her own arrogance. So I created a trust fund in Daniel's name, but with condition. The money would only be released if he separated from Emily legally. Otherwise, everything would remain locked away forever. I didn't tell anyone. I waited. The day of my final act came on my 70th birthday. Emily organized a grand party at the house. Politicians, business partners, neighbors, all were invited. She strutted around as if she were queen of the castle. When it came time for speeches, Daniel raised his glass. To my father, who built the foundation for everything we have. His words were hollow, but the guests applauded. I stood slowly, my legs weak, but my heart burning strong. Thank you, son. Thank you, Emily. But tonight, I have something to share. I pulled out an envelope from my jacket. This is my final will and testament. And since everyone here has been witness to my life, I want them to witness my decision too. The room fell silent. Emily's smile wavered. Daniel's eyes widened. I handed the document to the lawyer, standing nearby. He cleared his throat and read aloud. Every word was a dagger. No inheritance for Daniel. No property for Emily. Everything passed to George's family. And the condition, if Daniel ever chose to free himself from Emily, only then would he receive what was rightfully his. Gasps filled the room. Whispers spread like wildfire. Emily's face turned pale, then red. You can't do this, she shouted. I looked her straight in the eye. My voice was steady. I just did. Daniel's hands shook. Dad, how could you? I stepped closer. How could I? No, Daniel. How could you? I gave you everything. And you let her take me apart piece by piece. Respect was all I ever asked. Love was all I ever needed. And you gave me silence. Now I return that silence to you with nothing. Emily stormed out, her heels echoing like gunshots again, but this time they sounded like defeat. Daniel followed her, broken, torn between greed and shame. I sat down, my chest lighter than it had been in years. The guests looked at me with awe. Some even clapped softly. George placed a hand on my shoulder. Boss, you did it. I nodded. No, George. Life did it. Betrayal always carries its own punishment. I only made sure the world saw it. I lost my son to greed. But in losing him, I found something greater, my dignity. Sometimes, family is not blood. Sometimes, family is loyalty, respect, and love. And when betrayal cuts deepest, revenge doesn't need fire or fury. It only needs silence and a pen.